Good evening, everybody. My name is Laura McGuinness. I'm the founder of the Glasgow Girls Club community, and I am delighted to be joined by Ayurvedic and holistic health practitioner Tomaz Mueller.
That's right.
Good evening, Tomaz.
Hello, Laura.
How are you?
I'm very good, very good. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to just be here and to share and just let's see where the conversation goes.
Let's see where it goes because health and well-being, we are a community of just under 50,000 women from Glasgow and beyond, Tomaz, and health and well-being features very highly at the conversations that go on in this Facebook group. So I think that what you're going to share with us tonight is going to be super relevant, and I'm sure there's lots of people watching that are thinking, Ayurveda. Tell us more about that. So before we get into that, I would love it if you told us a wee bit about yourself and your journey into becoming an accomplished practitioner of it.
hmm Oh, thank you. Where to start? Well, you know, Laura, sometimes things happen in our life and we don't really know why things cross our path. And basically, um, my journey into Ayurveda consciousness meditation started about 35, 37 years ago. So quite a long time. I was at a place in my life where I really started to question, what am I doing with my life? Is this it? Basically, I had a government job, so I was in a job which was very safe and secure.
Mm.
And I thought, I can't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. Um, and then it so happened that I visited one of the first Ayurveda clinics in Germany. They opened up in the 1988 or 89. And I just walked in the door and this doctor came and he gave me an application form and say, here's the application form for an Ayurvedic a therapist. I said, oh, sorry. I'm just here to visit. I was accompanying a friend of mine. She is a naturopath, and I had no clue at the time what Ayurveda was. I wasn't into holistic medicine at all. I just like, I was just curious. And basically, my journey started from there. I quit my job um, in in the government. I did my training, my first training as an Ayurvedic therapist, and then I was working in the clinics for a couple of years. Then ended up living in an ashram, believe it or not, for 10 or 11 years. So I was traveling around the world and teaching Ayurvedic therapists and opening Ayurvedic clinics. And that's how I ended up in Australia. And I was teaching at a private college, actually, young children from the age of 4, 5, up until 8 or 9. They learned how to take their pulse. They learned a little bit about the Ayurvedic principles, how to meditate. It was just really a beautiful experience to be able to share that with children at such a young age, because I believe, of course, they are the generations of the future. So, and then before moving back, I thought, oh, let's just go and have a quick holiday in New Zealand. And that holiday took about 11 years.
Best type of holiday.
Yeah. So basically, I ended up teaching Ayurveda at the College of Natural Therapies. I started to see clients over there and moved back to Europe, back to London in 2009 or 10. Yeah. And then I had a clinic in central London, and then COVID hit, and then it's like, what now? Everything started to slow down, and I had to rethink what to do. Cutting a long story short, ended up here in Scotland, and I'm running an retreat center for meditation, detox, Ayurveda, for the past 2 years with my partner. And here we are. The journey continues. Every
Oh,
single day, a new adventure, isn't it?
yes, absolutely. Okay, so I think there'll probably be some viewers thinking, or listeners thinking, what is Ayurvedic well-being? So your journey, you've had an amazing journey into it and obviously traveled the world practicing it. But what is it?
In very simple terms, it's an Ayu. If you look at the word Ayurveda, it's two syllables. So Ayu means life, Veda means knowledge. So it's an ancient system of well-being originating from the Indian subcontinent. It's about 5,000 years old. Actually, the first references to Ayurvedic herbs go back even 10,000 years ago. So it is about looking at life, looking at well-being from a holistic perspective, not just body, mind, spirit. Um, but looking at it from the perspective, your environment, the space where you live in, astrological factors, of course, your lifestyle, nutrition, and everything that that comes with it. And you know, Laura, what amazed me many, many years ago was when I came to realize that my grandmother, she had no clue what Ayurveda was. But looking back, she had a very good understanding of uh, well-being from a perspective where we could say, okay, actually that knowledge has been around for a long time. Basically, that's what I'm saying. And she always used to say to us simple things, you know. Um, Sit down while you eat. Stop arguing when you have your food. And go to bed. She always said to me, if you want to go, if you want to catch the last train of the angels, you have to go to bed before 10 o'clock. And it never really made sense to me. But years later, coming to learn about Ayurveda, knowing about the Ayurvedic metabolic types and the cycles of the day, I come to understand that actually the sleep that we gain before midnight is the most rejuvenative sleep. And
Oh.
we move into a different cycle from around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening, and that's the phase where basically we have the opportunity, or the body has the opportunity to rejuvenate and to rebuild, to detoxify. Anyway, what I was trying to say is it is an ancient system of well-being. It has been around for a long time, but a lot of it is common sense. And you don't need to change your religion or change your diet. Or I always say to people that come to me, my main job is to help increase awareness what actually works for you. You know, it's about being self-aware when we eat certain foods, when we adhere to certain lifestyle. How does it make us feel? Do we feel well or do we feel ill? And I started off with one of the reasons of why I delved into Ayurveda so many years ago was because I was feeling quite depressed at the time. I was suffering, I was heavily obese, and I had some severe skin issues and skin allergies. And my journey started off looking at the mind, starting to learn about meditation, dealing with stress. And that then has led me on to learning about Deepak Chopra's first couple of books, which I still believe are the gems when it comes to consciousness and quantum healing. Um, so yeah, this is where my journey basically started.
Wow. And yeah, and I think so you went in through meditation. Was that kind of like the gateway for you then, Tomaz?
Totally. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I was at the time, I was in lay theater, so I was performing and I suffered from stage fright. So each time when we had a performance in the evening about 4 o'clock, I would really have massive diarrhea, upset stomach, feeling sick. I was so anxious. And that was originally why I started to meditate, to deal with that anxiety. But I had no clue that about a year later, my entire life would turn upside down and that I would travel around the world and opening clinics and teaching students from all over the world what Ayurveda is. So I'm very, very grateful. It has basically made me and shaped me into the person I am today with all the challenges that came. You can imagine we are talking Ayurveda 88, 89. So at that time, this is quite funny. I remember when the wall came down, so I was asked to go to East Germany and do a talk on Ayurveda and meditation. So I organized this lecture and I booked the place, and then the day before I wanted to go and collect the keys for the venue to check if everything was okay, and then the people who actually owned the place, they said, "Oh, your talk has been cancelled." I said, "What do you mean by my talk has been cancelled?" Yeah, it's not gonna happen. And then next day, Laura, in the newspaper, this was the first article that was published about myself. There was a big picture in the newspaper with the headline, "Witches, Gurus, Ghosts, Teachers of Yoga, Ayurveda, and Meditation," and with a list of things that you can get when you actually delve into yoga, meditation, and Ayurveda. So it was from suffering from mental confusion, internal bleeding, sexual disorientation. It was quite funny looking back now, but it wasn't that funny
Yeah,
30 something years ago.
yeah.
The witch hunting, if you look at it, but a lot has changed since then.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness that things have changed. So, Ayurvedic approach, how does that differ from like modern well-being or medical approaches?
hmm hmm Um, the medical approach is very much what I believe absolutely necessary. And I do believe in the complementary medicine world, it's not about this is the only way to achieve health and well-being, but it's about working in collaboration.
Yeah.
I do, there are a couple of things. Number one, modern medicine is actually not that old, if you really think about it. Um, but it is very much useful when it comes to emergency medicine. First line treatments, modern medicine is very helpful. But I do believe, and probably we all somehow agree, it is very much symptom based. So it looks at the disease that the person contracted. Whereas Ayurveda looks at the person who may have some imbalance. So the person is the key feature. And there are various ways of how you can look at prevention. So if you think
Yeah.
about Ayurveda, it is very much a preventative approach. And there's a beautiful Sanskrit verse in the classical text which says Heyam dukam anagatam, which basically means avoid the danger that has not yet come. And this is where Ayurveda is really useful through its various diagnostic tools, for example, tongue analysis, looking at your nails, taking the pulse, and you can really dive deeper because you don't look at the disease, but you look at the balance between the five elements, which in essence now takes us already a little bit into the mechanics of Ayurveda. So, how does Ayurveda look at the person? It looks at the human being from the perspective of the five elements of space, air, fire, water, and earth. This is
Okay.
different to the Chinese medicine. There are some similarities, but I always say let's speak French or let's speak Chinese or let's speak Japanese. Don't try to mix it up. So I'm talking about it from an Ayurvedic perspective. So each of us has a unique constitutional type, a unique metabolic type, and there are different degrees and variations of those five elements that make up our psycho-emotional, physiological existence. So, for example, if you look at metabolic disorders, if you look at digestion, if you look at skin related matters, from an Ayurvedic perspective, you would understand there is very likely an imbalance between the fire element and the water element. Or if you suffer from constipation, insomnia, anxiety, it is very much linked to the element of air and space. And if you look at um, fluid retention, hormonal issues, for example, you would think of possibly a disturbance in the water element. But of course, Laura, it's not as simple as it sounds, but this gives you a rough idea. And once you understand, okay, let's say, give me an example. Let's say somebody suffers from a fire-related imbalance, which could be acid reflux, which could be skin-related problems, inflammation in general. So if you look at inflammation, it is heat, okay? So we
Mhm.
have the fire element. But from an Ayurvedic understanding, through looking at the tongue, taking the pulse, doing an assessment, you may come to understand that it actually is not the fire that it is the problem, but it is the wind that is a problem because the wind blows in the fire. In a sense, the wind gets um, sort of the wind can be translated here as an irregular lifestyle, disruptive sleeping patterns. There's no routine, or like I like to say, no rhythm in life, stress related stuff. So all of that upsets the air element. So what happens, Laura, when the wind blows in the fire? The fire gets stronger. So Ayurveda then looks at what is the cause. So you regulate, for example, the vata element or the wind element, the air element, which looks at stress factors. How can you improve the quality of sleep? How can you ensure your body is hydrated well enough? That's the cause. And by naturally dealing with that cause, the symptoms are very likely to reduce, which is completely different from the modern medicine approach.
Yeah.
Also, from an Ayurvedic approach, you can look at the disease in six different stages. So, by taking the pulse, one can get a feeling of um, on which level is the manifestation? So, do we just have an imbalance between the air and the earth element, and there's nothing major wrong? Or are we looking at deeper issues where this imbalance has already affected my organs and organ systems? So, you can look at the initial stages of the imbalance, stage one, two, three, four, already before the disease manifests. So, in order, or when we are able to diagnose, for example, hyperthyroidism or endocrine related issues, menstrual problems, we are looking at stage five and six. So the disease is already manifested in the body. And this is where modern medicine then comes in and finds treatment for it. Whereas Ayurveda has got these entire range of that entire spectrum where we can look at has it manifested in a different part of the body? Has it moved before it actually causes the manifestation of a disease? I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and absolutely. And so you can tell that all from someone's pulse, and you mentioned their tongue as well.
Yes, yes. So tongue, analysis, if you look at the tongue, there are different regions of the tongue that can be correlated to our internal organs. Okay, like the lungs, the stomach, the spleen, our intestine, our heart. And I always say, the tongue, whatever goes on the tongue, is a reflection what goes on internally. That's why, for example, in Ayurveda, it is very much recommended to scrape your tongue in the morning before you actually drink anything. And let me just sort of divert or digress a little bit into tongue scraping. So, when you scrape your tongue in the morning, it's like the reflex zones that we find on the palms of our hands or the soles of our feet. It starts to improve the circulation in the different regions because the tongue, as I said, is a map of the internal organs, and that basically stimulates already your digestion, helps to eliminate toxins, and so on. So, tongue scraping is a very crucial or one of the very simple things that Ayurveda has been recommending for thousands of years. And it is a very good way to look at what goes on internally. Is there any fungus in your body? Do you have any digestive issues? Is there any inflammation? Is there chronic stress? Where is that stress? So that you can find by simply looking at the tongue.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Do you know, it's funny that you should say that because I went to a yoga class years and years ago with a yoga teacher and he was absolutely brilliant. And he used to give us like a wee lesson at the beginning of the yoga class on different areas of health. And that was one thing he said all the time. He was like, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you scrape your tongue.
Yeah, yeah. And you will be surprised what kind of stuff actually accumulates on the tongue. And the reason why the first thing in the morning, because as you can imagine, if we don't do that, if we just brush our teeth or do some oil swishing, all that gunk that sits on the tongue gradually becomes like a toxic drip that feeds back into the body. So you want to get rid of it in the morning before you actually start to drink anything. And the morning is the best time because our body had the time to relax, had the time to detoxify. This is where nighttime and good night's sleep is so important to enhance the detox capacity of this amazing instrument, what we call human body, really.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so you're giving us some good tips right here. We need to be in bed by 10, sleeping by 10 or in bed by 10.
Just in bed by 10, around 10 o'clock.
In
I mean,
bed by
there's also known now, science has caught up with it, that human growth factor, the activation, the stimulation, or when human growth factor kicks in, is in the first phase of our sleep. It is strongest the time before midnight. Human growth factor is our anti-aging system. So this is where that comes in. So I just thought I'll throw that in quickly.
Yes, we love it. We love it. The minute we're off this chat, Tomaz, I'm just going to lie down and go to sleep. That'll be me. Beauty sleep. So what do we use to scrape our tongues? If anyone's thinking, oh, what would I use to do that?
Good question. Thank you for asking it. And I must say, I sometimes get really frustrated or, how shall I say, irritated by how ancient principles are being reinvented just to make them more sexy, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So Ayurveda has always recommended to use a silver tongue scraper, or if you don't have silver, use a copper tongue scraper. And nowadays, you get those plastic tongue scrapers. People suggest, oh, use the end of your toothbrush, use the back of your spoon. So It's like everybody tries to reinvent themselves to make something very, very ancient look very new and more modern, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is more effective. So in ancient times, or even today still, we use silver. Why? Using a silver tongue scraper, when it comes in contact with your saliva, microparticles of the silver start to be released and we absorb them back into our bloodstream. And this is one of the very, very simple, potent ways in a safe and effective manner to stimulate your immune system. So when I was working in India, uh, when I did my internships in the hospitals in India, we used to have our vaccination program, which at the time was like children from 6 months old until 15, 16 years old. They were lining up in front of the hospital and they were given a specific formulation that was made out of silver and gold. So purified silver, purified gold in a liquid form, and that was the vaccination program that the kids have received. So silver is known for its immune boosting properties for a long time.
Okay. Wow, okay. And so many facts are coming out of this conversation. It's brilliant. Okay, so you have worked with some really high profile clients, including Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York. What kinds of things do you help your clients with? So obviously you've mentioned you would be able to look at someone's tongue and you would be able to tell them, what's kind of going on internally. Like what I take it is that like a first port of call for you with your clients?
That's correct. And also through the way of how people communicate, through their physical structure, their muscles, the bone frame, that already can give a very clear idea about what we call in Ayurveda the three doshas of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So, give you an example, Pitta constitution has can they are usually very, very good managers. They have got a strong physical build. They are athletic in their performances. Whereas if you look at the Vata constitution, they are much more flexible. They are very good in bending their legs and putting their legs behind their head and doing the most crazy yoga postures. And then you have the Kapha constitution, which has an incredible amount of stamina. So when you ask me that question, what do people present themselves with? It's very difficult to answer because number one, I'm not first of all interested in the disease
Yep.
that people have or the symptoms that they have. I try to understand what is their mental state? How do they feel emotionally? How do they respond energetically? And based on that, then we design the treatment approach. In saying that, I have worked while I was in central London with people who have had cancer, for example, who have had hormonal problems, menopause, infertility issues. That's a big, big thing. And then all the stress-related matters. So, but I think if I were to narrow it down, a lot of people come with food intolerances, digestive issues that range from IBS to simple constipation to Crohn's disease. So more and more people nowadays really struggle with their digestion.
Yep.
And it's quite interesting because in Ayurveda, you look at digestion first. Because if your metabolism is strong, then everything else will fall into place. So the main focus from an Ayurvedic perspective is to optimize your nutrition. You know, I find it quite funny. Sometimes, or very often, I get clients, they come and they come with an entire list of supplements they take.
Yeah.
And and then I just sort of burst their bubble and I said, look, this is all wonderful, but unless your digestion is good, unless your absorption is optimal, you are just producing very expensive urine that you flush down the toilet. Because very often those supplements, do they actually do the job? They can't do the job if our body cannot read the information that is in the medicine. So this was a little bit of a roundabout answer to your question of what type of people I work with. Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone, and I love what you say about it's the individual that you're looking at rather than the kind of, the disease. It's the individual. So I guess it's Ayurveda is completely tailored to every individual, and probably I'm assuming that no kind of treatment that you would provide, like, or suggest and recommend to your clients are probably ever exactly the same.
totally, totally. And I always say, how shall I put this? Um, if people expect when they come and see me, if they expect a very detailed Ayurvedic diet or this or that, then I must totally disappoint them. Because number one, I don't believe in diets, um, because it's a very slippery slope. Um, what I do, however, and this is where my entire clinic is based around that understanding of becoming more aware of what works for you. My job is just to guide, to help people becoming aware of what works for them and what not. And of course, if there are serious health issues, you would suggest, for example, stay away from sugar, dairy, and gluten, but I don't make it my primary approach when people come to me because very often, Laura, I have people, and this is where it becomes interesting with the doshas, the constitutional types. A Pitta constitution, remember Pitta, the element of fire, they have a very sharp intellect. They are very good organizers. They come up with all sorts of lists and they can follow it to the dot. Pitta people, they are very good following instructions. But the Vata mind, which is so expansive, so creative, they get bored. These are the people that jump from one practitioner to the next, to the next, to the next, because they just need that kind of space, variety. And I would be wrong to try to superimpose um, my recommendations and say, oh, you have to follow this. I can only suggest. And in essence, you know exactly what resonates with you. And if you are struggling with figuring out what works, there are different things that we can do. So, as a general thing, for example, think about a gentle detox program. What do I mean by that? One of the simplest things, and probably many of you here who are listening might know this already, but is sipping hot water on a regular basis. So, when you, for example, boil water for a certain amount of time, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, get some good quality water, boil it, put it in a thermos flask, have small sips throughout the day frequently.
Mhm.
So as soon as you boil the water, its molecular structure changes. So it allows the body can absorb the water much better, number
Mm.
one, and it starts flushing out toxins much easier. So it could be a simple way to start your journey by simply looking at how can I cleanse my body in a simple way so that I am more aware of what diets, what lifestyle suits me. And then, of course, there's the whole mental, emotional aspect of our well-being. Um, which are probably I'm not going to go into that because that's an entire universe. We maybe can talk about it another time. So yeah,
So interesting just to hear all these like kind of like things that you can put into your daily practice that could, really help you. I love the idea of being proactive rather than reactive with your health. And I think the more self-aware you can be about yourself, mind, body, soul, but also from the Ayurvedic perspective that goes beyond that and looks at your environment and everything, it's just knowledge is power, isn't it?
totally,
If you can
totally.
take control of your own
Yeah,
health, then
exactly.
hopefully that stops the disease from coming in if you can be really proactive.
Yeah, there are two phrases that pop in my mind. Number one is like we all, and this is where it started for me. Do you live or do I live life, or is life living me? And
Mhm.
certainly at that time, life was living me. I wasn't living life. And that's the question that we can answer, we can ask ourselves, and anybody who sort of um, ponders upon that question somehow will know when it's time to make some changes. And the other thing is, a lot of the time we focus so much on the physical aspect of health. We jump from one diet to the other. Today, turmeric is number one medicine, and then tomorrow it's something else, coconut oil here and there. But my entire focus, my entire clinical practice is based around focusing on expansion, expansion of consciousness, calming your mind, working with your emotional body. Because when you focus on expansion, what I mean by that is when you focus on the deeper layers of your existence, you will make healthy choices. They become natural choices. And
Mhm.
it doesn't become a choice that your professional, your practitioner, or another Thomas is telling you. They become natural choices. They become your lifestyle
Yeah.
without basically you following a specific routine. Because sooner or later, we all trip over our own what you call it recommendations and how many times at the beginning of the year do we make New Year resolutions? How long do they last?
Yeah, I know. I know. It's so common to it to last like a week.
Exactly.
Okay, right. I love it. Okay, so you have already given us like quite a few nuggets of gold, really. Is there any other ways that we can implement Ayurvedic practices in our daily lives out with what you've already shared, Tomaz?
I think going back to basics, taking time when you eat, sit down when you eat, don't rush around. Maybe start to consider looking into the kitchen and using spices as your alchemical laboratory and play with the spices and prepare food fresh. It doesn't mean always it needs a lot of work. But I do believe it's more and more important nowadays that we think about what grows locally, what is available in the season, and how can I prepare it for my family freshly, rather than going into the supermarket and buying fast food. And it always shocks me in a way. Not shocks me, but I find it amusing when I go shopping and I look at my trolley, and very often I look at the trolley of how much processed food people buy. So try to stay away from processed food, refined sugars, refined carbohydrates, anything that is white. And healthy diet, I believe, Laura, doesn't necessarily mean it is more expensive. You just have to be conscious. You have to maybe make a little bit of effort and prepare it. But there is healing in the preparation process because your consciousness, your mind, for example, when you prepare food for your daughter,
Mhm.
you think, I believe, you think 5 times before you prepare that food, and you do it with all your love and with all your attention. And that love and attention already starts the digestive process and starts already so that the food that you later consume and that you give to your daughter provides the best nourishment that it can provide.
That's nice. That's really nice. And I think as well with when it comes to like the food industry, and you'll know like way more than this than me, but I was having a conversation with a business member recently, and she was talking about how let down by the food industry and the lack of education on food in general and kind of like, the food labels and just not it's like we're being given food for people, big businesses to make lots of money, but they're like not good for human consumption or human health.
Totally,
And it's
totally.
it's it's sad, isn't it? Because and then they do make the things that are like unhealthy or quick cheaper than having like lovely fruit and it is we're in a time where I mean probably humans have always been in a time, but the big corporates just seem to rule and really human health is money and then human health.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, it's an entire rabbit hole that
It
we
is.
can we
It's a
can
debate.
sort of get
Yes.
lost in.
Yes.
And also, this whole this is not, I'm not saying anything negative around veganism, but there's this entire culture around veganism. And if you look at any kind of food that you take, turn it around. If you can't read, if you can't understand the ingredients, and especially vegan food, a lot of vegetarian food. I have been vegetarian for a very long time until I had severe health issues. And now in my nutrition, I listen to my body, and sometimes I do crave some fish. I do
Mhm.
have chicken. And occasionally, I feel like I really crave some red meat. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, um, if you look at food, turn it around, read the labels. If you can't pronounce the words, then maybe stay away from it. And even healthy food, consider it as healthy food, like vegan food and all the vegan alternatives, the vegan cheeses. It shocks me because why? And this is just me, and this is in no way I'm trying to step on anybody's toes, but I would question if there's so much synthetic stuff in there, if there's so much artificial stuff in a food, does it really do me good? Question mark.
Yeah, interesting, interesting, interesting. Okay, so we are on tonight to chat about an event as well that you are bringing to Glasgow on the 27th of April. Is that right?
That's
27th.
right.
And
Yes.
you have there's a GGC discount, so we'll get to that. But could you tell us a wee bit about this event, Tomaz, and what people can expect to learn and what would be their transformation when they're with you?
Okay. What would be, let's start there, the transformation. Hopefully, my intention for this workshop is to help people think twice, becoming aware of their choices, and also take the pressure off a little bit. Because in the food industry, in the wellness industry, there's so much pressure of the do's and don'ts. But once you understand your constitutional type, so we will look a little bit deeper into understanding Vata, Pitta, Kapha, these three different body types, how do they manifest in my physical body? What are the imbalances? I will touch upon pulse analysis. Um, of course, we can't go into depth, but pulse can be used as a means to balance. We look at some breathing practices, and my aim is to give quite a few more detox suggestions that people can take away. So, and also, yeah, breath work, meditation, little bit of relaxation. So it's going to be an exciting day, and I'm so looking forward to meeting you.
It honestly sounds amazing. And actually, just to quickly look back to something that you said earlier on about supplements, because I know that, like, even myself and a lot of my friends and some of the other contacts that I've got as well have invested quite heavily in supplements. And it's like, I'm taking this, and then you're on that assumption that you're doing the best you can for your health because you're making sure you're getting all these supplements in. But actually, what you're saying about knowing your type actually will help you take in more of what your body needs. So you'll be helping people understand if they are what kind of dosha is it that what they're called doshas they are.
Yes, that's correct. And also, we will hopefully be able to look at some simple kitchen remedies where we can support absorption of the nutrients. Because what's the point if you take all those supplements and it's not being absorbed on a cellular level? Like I said earlier, you flush it down out of the system without doing the job, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a full day event, isn't it, Tomaz? It's 10 till 5.
That's right. Yes.
10 till 5 in the Healing Heather Holistics Erskine House in Clydebank.
Correct. Correct.
Fantastic. The ticket price is standard ticket price is £95, but for GGC members, you're doing £20 off.
Yes. It's 75, I think, for your members.
Five for members. So that's an even bigger saving than I'd thought. So £20 off. And I've posted the link to the tickets in the comments. So you can go and take a look and read the sign up page is actually brilliant. I love all the way you've broke down what everybody's going to learn and hopefully come away with. And it is all about becoming more self-aware about your health and
Totally, totally.
gaining your power back and yeah, just moving forward in a kind of Ayurveda. I love the word Ayurvedic even. Okay, fabulous. And we're going to do a two-ticket giveaway, aren't we?
Oh, yes, that's right.
We're going to do a two-ticket giveaway. So I think I will launch that on Instagram tomorrow. And what I'll
Cool.
do is I'll share a link to this podcast video, and I'll ask people to enter on Instagram and tell them a wee bit more. So hopefully more people can get to hear this because from talking to you, Thomas, I've learned a lot already. Some good tips that I'm going to put into my daily practice and just make habits of. That's sometimes half the
Exactly.
battle, isn't it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, fabulous. And
And
I'm off to get my ticket as well.
yeah, just if there's any final words before we close off this conversation, it's just like just breathe. Stop taking life so seriously. And I know probably some of you might feel like, oh, maybe he has got it all sorted. I haven't got my life sorted. There are always challenges that life presents itself, but take time to pause, take time to breathe, and take off that pressure a little bit of, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that. Oh, now I've fallen off the wagon because I had a piece of cake and what's going to do to me? That anxiety is actually worse than if you would have gone and enjoyed that piece of cake or maybe that glass of wine or whatever it is, you know? So maybe as a final message to your audience, just take the pressure off because we have got so much to deal with. Energetically, so much is going on, and we need to find some space for us to be, you know.
Yes. Oh, I love that final thought. Amazing. How can the women of the community connect with you?
They can go to my Instagram. So, um, let me just double check because I'm like terrible when it comes to my social media. Um, my Instagram account is called Müller Thomas, Mueller, Tomaz, and it has got all the links in my link tree to the website. And if you have any questions with regards to the seminar, so please just send me a message on Instagram and we can take it from there. Thank you so much for allowing me to bubble on. And as you probably have noticed, once you get Thomas started, it's very difficult for him to shut up and to stop talking.
Well, it's your passion comes through in everything that you're saying, and your mission comes through in everything that you're saying. So I have absolutely loved chatting to you and learning from you, and really, really looking forward to the event. So I will post some links. I'll post link to your Instagram underneath this chat as well. And then tomorrow, if everyone can look out for our Instagram competition for a couple of tickets as well, that would be fab. But Thomas, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
for, um, yeah, and thank you to Lindsay for making this connection. I'm very grateful.
Yes, Lindsay Reid PR. We love her. We love her. If anyone's looking for PR, check her out. Okie dokie. I'm going to end the live now. Thank you all for watching, and we will be back.
Thank you.
Soon.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.